You're watching the Frye Show, brought to you by these fine sponsors. Grand Lake Roofing, Fowler's TV, Family Audiology Associates, American Legion Post 323, Varsity Lanes, Outdoors Equipment Rental, Spring Street Storage, Mr. Bank, Plus One Professionals, Albert Sporting Goods. You are renovating St. Mary's Foundry, Mary Staff Auto Sales, Tap House at the Square, CSC, Jordan Plumbing and Heating, Roots Pub, Dr. Mike Compton, Guaneri's Pizzeria, and DFW Post 9289.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2023 edition of the Bo Frye Show here on Rider Nation Station. I'm your host, Joe Hurlburt, alongside head coach Bo Frye. And each and every week, Coach, we're going to be talking about games around the Western Buckeye League. We'll talk about the previous games that the Rider has played and, of course, the upcoming opponent. But first of all, welcome to the 2023 edition.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Well, last year, Coach, let's talk a little bit. We'll wrap things up with last year. Last year, the Riders went 9-3. They went 7-2 in the Western Buckeye League. And so one of the things that I want to talk about is let's bring us up to speed on your staff. Mm-hmm. Any changes in staff this year?
So really, there hasn't been any changes. I'm very, very, very fortunate that I've got a great staff. I can go through them here and explain them all if you'd like.
Absolutely.
On offense, my brother calls the offense, Kobe Frye. He also coaches running backs. My dad, Doug Frye, helps on the offense. He's coaching fullbacks. Kevin Jacobs coaches tackles. Seth Voorhees is now exclusively coaching tight ends, a new guy in our system. But he's been with us for a couple years. And Derek Dunlap coaches quarterbacks. So all guys that I coach football with my friends and my family. I mean, it's not always right, but hey, it's that they're with us and they're a good group. They all play in the wing tee and they all understand what we're trying to accomplish. Defensively, we're still back with Nick Yales, our defensive coordinator, does a great job over there. Shane Patterson coaches the defensive line. Tom Nouse coaches linebackers, and Bo Kenning helps on the assistant defensive line, and then Dave Brewer kind of helps with the young defense.
Well, last year, like I said, you went 9-3, 7-2 in the Western Buckeye League. As far as you've lost a lot of key players off of last year's team. You lost 3 first-team All-League offensive players, including your leading rusher, Aiden Hinkle, 2 second-team All-WBL offensive players, 4 on the defensive side. So when you look at the upcoming season, you've got some holes to fill.
Yeah, and we're still trying to fill them. It's still week 2. Obviously, you saw in week 1 some of those holes we filled weren't as good as what we hoped they'd be. But we're a work in progress, and our kids come to work every day, and we have got a great group of just awesome kids to be around. And at some point, we're going to be a very good football team.
I mean, you have 11 returning lettermen to start with, so you can start building around that. And you got some key players that are back. Colton Mabry's back on the offense. You got Dominic Osborne. You got Cody Wallace at quarterback, so you have some key players.
100%. We have a lot of kids that played in a lot of football, but they were always the second guy. They weren't the main guy. And at some point here, they've got to become the main guys. When it's time to execute and make plays, they got to be the guys. And that's going to come. And growing up takes time, but they'll be all right.
So we'll talk a little bit more about as far as the personnel when we get into looking at some of the clips as far as the St. Henry game last week. But changes in the game for the 2023 football season. Any rule changes that we can see? And I'm sure Zach and Mark will go over those and rules of the game. But anything that you see that you have to make some adjustments with?
Well, the 2 main focuses this year were defensive receiver in high school football. So guys can't come in a la like the Nick Yale shot you saw from 2004. Those are illegal plays anymore. And you're going to get called for those all the time. So DBs have to come with their arms open and wrapping up. You're no longer allowed to push the quarterback on quarterback sneaks. You know, the old Bush push.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's illegal now this year. And I thought the blocking zone changed 3 years ago. For some reason, we were getting called for it the other night. Obviously, that's not a new rule change, but something I had to dig down a little deeper on to figure out what the rule actually was. And at times, we weren't violating the rules. And sometimes I have to teach the officials.
Sure. Mm-hmm. And I know you're not Jim Holman, who has to find officials for each and every game, but is that going to be a problem in 2023? We know that some of the older referees are retiring. Is it going to be difficult?
Oh yeah, we had issues in our scrimmages finding officials. I don't know. That's kind of above my pay grade. But I know there is. If you're an official out there looking and thinking about doing it, I think there's a great need. So the more younger people we can get involved in our game, the better the game will continue to go. But we need people.
Well, I know from personal experience, and there's 700 officials that sit behind you each and every Friday night.
Some days I feel like an official. You know, I mean, honestly, I need to do my job better and stop worrying about the officials.
Exactly. Well, last week the Rough Riders lost their opening game on the road at St. Henry. But before we talk about that game, let's take a look at some of the games around the Western Buckeye League. The league overall went 4-6 to open the season, and Defiance defeated Napoleon 38-13. Bath defeated New Bremen 14-7. Elida, which I think might be a sleeper in the Western Buckeye League this year, they've been improving year in and year out. They defeated Toledo Rogers 42-6. Van Wert rolled over Bryan 47-21. Versailles shut out Salina by a score of 26-0. Kenton lost to Coldwater 29-12. Eastwood defeated OG 21-18. Marion Local, in the last 5 minutes of the ball game, scored twice to defeat Wapak 29-26, and LCC defeated Shawnee by a score of 42-14. And of course, the Rough Riders lost 17-0 on the road at St. Henry. Coach, first of all, your overall look at your overall take on your ball club as far as the performance on Friday. We're going to take a look at some clips as we go along.
I mean, the glaring straight in front of you right away. I thought our kids were ready to play until we walked on the field, and that's my fault, 100% my fault. I think we got out coached. I think we got out executed, and I think we got out hustled. And those all can be fixed very quickly, and we're doing that, and we're working on it.
Well, let's take a look at some of the clips offensively from last Friday night. This is Colton Mabry on the carry.
Yeah, Colton's been playing for years here.
He has been, and he's only a junior.
Correct. Yeah,
and he's gotten stronger. It looks like he's bulked up a little bit.
We got to put Colton in positions to be the man for us. That's the big thing, and he's got to be the man. He's got to take some growing up on his part, but he'll do it.
This pass here from Cody Wallace was intended for Jacob Kessler. It just falls a little bit on the short side. My take on this, if he would have thrown it a little bit earlier, he might and thrown it in stride, it might have ended up in the end zone.
It's part of getting out executed.
Dominic,
and more than just Cody Wallace, it takes all 11 guys to complete a pass.
Exactly. And he needs protection.
He does, yes.
And to keep in mind, we're young. We're young up front, and so those are growing pains we're going to have to deal with. This one here is Dominic Osborne, and Dominic saw some action last year and is going to fill that spot at the halfback position. But he's a hard runner,
He runs very hard. He's needs to, like I said with Colton, needs to grow up fast and be the man for us.
I think this is another Dominic Osborne run here out of the wing tee.
Yeah, Dom's good at understand where the sweep should hit and where it shouldn't. I love him. Great kid. Like I said with Colton and like I said with Dom, you need to be the man. All right, you need to be the guy here for us, and it's coming.
Hayden Davis steps in at fullback here and gets the carry, and just a good hard-nosed run for 4 or 5 yards.
Yeah, Hayden's a great kid. Very strong kid. Big weight room guy. Yeah.
And this one right here should be 6 points, but Wallace just overthrew Carter Steinberg, and but again, it's all part of execution.
Yeah, we got out executed. This one as well is pretty self-explanatory. But they're kids, you know what I mean? They catch them in practice. I mean, this is week 1. It's real now, and
exactly.
When you got to be the man, it's not always easy.
You know, and and in all honesty, let's face fact. You could complete that pass 9 out of 10 times in practice. But it's a different scenario on Friday nights.
Yeah, Friday nights are different, and then when you're not as experienced or you haven't made those plays in games, sometimes they don't always fall right. But
exactly.
I will make sure we complete those.
Absolutely.
When it's time.
I'm sure.
Yes. It's the same one again.
Yeah, this is the same one.
Yep. No, this is the one he throws for a pick, I believe. We tried to run the same play again. It was like and 20.
Yeah.
There's only so many plays in the playbook on our offense when it's 4th and 20.
Yeah, and in all honesty, the way it ended up, it was almost it was no different than a punt.
It was
so
right
to speak.
before half.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. So here's a kid making a play. Dixon kid. He probably didn't hear his name much last year. He probably didn't even know who he was. But he's got some dog in him, some fight in him.
That was a nice throw, nice catch between two defenders, and that's just nothing but concentration right there. That's just a good catch.
That's just guys making plays when it's time to make plays.
So on the defensive side of the ball, where do we stand? We have players coming back from a year ago, and we got a solid core on the defense.
There's some key pieces that are back on the defense, and honestly, first and second down defense on last Friday night was one of the best we've seen in years.
Yeah.
It was the 3rd and 15s. It was the 3rd and 7s. It was the lack of execution when it was crunch time.
Yeah.
Guys manning up and being men. But those will be fixed.
Absolutely.
We got a lot of guys back in the Perrys and the Comptons, and you saw Davis last year.
Sure.
Hunter Mabry played on the defensive line last
Absolutely.
year. So a lot of kids that played football for us last year are still back on defense.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at some of the plays from last Friday night's game. This is just good pursuit here by your defensive people. Ball dropped on the ground. They reacted, and here they come.
That's early in the game, first down, I believe, or second down, and a lot of balls on the ground, though, that for some reason we didn't come up with when we usually do here in St. Mary's. It's Turner. We talk about a motor, man. That guy takes every single rep in practice and takes every rep on scout team.
Does he?
And never stops with that mode. And then doesn't say a word after practice, in between practice, or any time after that.
You talk about leaders, and sometimes you ask for your seniors to step up. Sometimes you have those quiet leaders, and that seems like that's an example. Caleb Turner could be one of them silent leaders. He just goes, and players can learn from the example that he puts forth on the field.
A lot of time in 2023, leadership is more about results.
Yeah. Here, I think your defense causes a fumble.
Yeah.
Good pursuit.
We have two guys dive on it, and they came up with it.
Absolutely.
That's the story of the night, man.
It is.
But hey, that's how you better push through those things, and those are things that we expect our guys to come up with and make happen. So
there's nice pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah.
Gets him flushed out, forces him to throw an incomplete
There were times where we looked really, really, really good.
Yeah. This pass interference here sets up a St. Henry score.
Yeah, we got young guys at times. Dixon, I just talked about good about him on the last one. He's got to understand situational football. He's got to get his eyes out of the backfield, quit looking at the quarterback, and understand where the receiver's at, and understand it's 3rd and 17.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is St. Henry's first score of the ball game. They're inside the red zone. They're about the 9-yard line.
It just opens up, and we don't get him on the ground. That happens. We got to get corrected.
Got St. Henry penned deep in their own territory. This is good pursuit by the defense.
Yeah, guys making plays. We need that every play. Pursuit to the ball. They care. Our kids care. Our kids want to win, and they will. This is just a heck of a ball. I mean, we're close. All right, the story of the night, close. Close doesn't win.
And it was a good throw. I mean, he put it at the only place that one person can catch it, and that was his receiver, and that's what happened.
Yeah, sometimes
that's happened. That's football.
Yeah, I'll pat the kid on the back, say, "Hey, make the play, man."
This is Hayden Davis on defense. We saw him a little bit earlier on offense at fullback. Ball pops up in the air, and he just fills the gap. First one to the ball carrier.
Hayden plays with a motor. Ott getting excited. A young Ott kid. He's a freshman, 44, defensive end for us. He gets excited, and I love that too. Maybe more important than the play was Ott getting excited.
Yeah.
Heck of a stick there by Kessler. Yep. You see it. You see it a lot at times.
This is just good pursuit by your defense. But you talked about Ott as a freshman. You got many freshmen on your roster?
Oh, yeah. We're big freshman class.
Do you?
Close to 30. So, yeah.
No, they play a freshman schedule.
We're trying. We're trying to get anybody and everybody. So, yes, we're trying. Good pursuit.
Defense
good
strings
pursuit,
them out.
coming off blocks by Bournes. Good job. There's some good football being played right there.
Defense blocks a field goal here.
Correct. Yeah. And this was a heck of a job. I believe it was Perry. And the Perry kid, you'll see more. He's a heck of a football player. He's a Perry. Problem is, when we block it, we all freeze. All right? The difference between last year and this year is you can't freeze. Last year's group played a little more football. They didn't freeze in these situations. Right. They went, and then we saw a return for a touchdown or something like that. So,
and, of course, we got some special teams clips. Basically, punt coverage from your punt team.
Yeah, we use
new punter this year.
It's Kessler. Kessler's doing the punting for us. Ball's on the ground a lot though. We didn't come up with it, so I did not like our pursuit downfield, which we're getting fixed.
He doesn't seem like he on these clips had a lot of hang time, but boy, he sure got a roll out of a lot of them.
He's who he is. I mean, he's a pretty good punter when he can get into it. He's also doing a lot of things for us.
Yeah. So there's a nice roll there, about 15 yards.
Yep. Got to keep getting guys downfield and getting in those returners' faces. Yeah, not great protection there. But we're getting that fixed as well. That's why you practice.
Exactly. On this particular punt here, it was almost like your deep man was he back too far, and he let the ball hit the ground, or
it was late in the game and we sent a full block. Okay. He should have fielded it, but he was pretty deep. Last week in the Marion local scrimmage, in the Fort Laramie scrimmage, he came up and fielded one in front of him and dropped that one. So now he's kind of gun shy. Mm-hmm. So that's what you have to work out of him. I mean, that's coaching. That's what we got to get fixed.
Well, I'll tell you what. What do you say we put this one to bed?
I'd love that.
Let's take a break. Yeah. We're going to come back and we're going to take a look at this week's opponent. It's the rival across the lake, the Salina Senior Bulldogs. We're on the road over there. We'll come back and talk about the Bulldogs right after this.
You're watching the Frye Show, brought to you by these fine sponsors. Grand Lake Roofing, Fowler's TV, Family Audiology Associates, American Legion Post 323, Varsity Lanes, Outdoors Equipment Rental, Spring Street Storage, Mr. Bank, Plus One Professionals, Albert Sporting Goods. You are renovating St. Mary's Foundry, Mary Staff Auto Sales, Tap House at the Square, CSC, Cody Plumbing and Heating, Roots Pub, Dr. Mike Compton, Guaneri's Pizzeria, and DFW Post 9289.
Welcome back to the Bo Frye Show. I'm Joe Hurlburt alongside head coach Bo Frye. Glad to have you along on Rider Nation Station. I want to remind everybody along the way that we'll be broadcasting the St. Mary's Salina game over at Bulldog Stadium this Friday night. Airtime approximately 10 till 7, somewhere in that vicinity. You know, always check your notifications. If you like us on Facebook or subscribe on YouTube, you'll get a notification as exactly when we're on. But, Coach, it's a crazy thing. The league rotated.
Yeah.
And so last year we ended the season with Salina. This year, because of the league rotation, Salina is your number one Western Buckeye League game out of the chute. And what do you? And of course, we've said this before. It's St. Mary's Salina. You know, you're going to go after it. Mm-hmm. And so, what do you see from Salina?
Well, first off, the schedule is tough, but you cannot change your schedule. You can't change the weather. That's two things in this game I learned as a coach. Those are the two things you cannot change. So what am I seeing from Salina? On paper, they're the league champ coming into the year, and they still might be. They brought darn near everybody back on defense, everybody but the quarterback back on offense. They're talented. They're big. But they have some issues right now as well, and so do we. As I kind of told somebody else, they can figure out their problems. I'm going to figure out mine.
Exactly. Well, of course, they were on the road last week at Versailles, and Versailles shut them out as well. So it's going to see who can adjust this week and practice as much. And you know, a sidebar off of that, you mentioned the schedule. Mm-hmm. this first half of the season doesn't favor the Rough Riders. I think, 4 of the first 5 games are on the road, but then the second half you're at home, and it's always nice to play at home, but boy, that on-the-road schedule is tough.
Hey, we didn't sign up for easy here, you know what I mean? But, what they kind of learn, if there's no mud, there's no miracles, like some kind of thing. You're in the mud, all right? You either dig out of that mud or you lay in it. So that's who we are.
Exactly. So this week, going back to your prep, how do you get your team focused, or is there much to say to get this team motivated because of the Salina rivalry?
So we're in a unique situation here in St. Mary's. We have kids that love football, and they love to play football. So I'm lucky. They show up, they go to work. Are we good yet? Far from it. We'll tell you that. You can ask anybody. I'll tell you we're not a great football team yet. But will we play harder this week? 100%. Will we execute this week? 100%. And if we do that every week, we got a shot. And I don't care who it is. We got enough good football players here to win every week.
Absolutely. Well, we wish you the best of luck this week on the road at Salina. Of course, as I mentioned before, we'll be there to bring you all the action of the St. Mary's Salina game. So best of luck against the Bulldogs over there at Salina. Let's get a W this time, and we'll have better things to talk about next week.
I like the Bo Frye Show better when we win.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's going to wrap it up here for the Bo Frye Show. I'm Joe Hurlburt alongside head coach Bo Frye. Until next week, so long, everyone.
Thank you for watching the Bo Frye Show, brought to you by fine sponsors. Grand Lake Roofing, Colors TV, Family Audiology Associates, American Legion Post 323, Varsity Lane, Douglas Equipment Rental, Spring Street Storage, Mr. Banks, Plus One Professionals, Albert Sporting Goods. You are renovating St. Mary's Foundry, Larry Staff Auto Sales, Tap House at the Square, TSC, Cody Plumbing and Heating, Roots Pub, Dr. Mike Compton, Gwinnett Pizzeria, and DFW Post 9289.